Do you guys feel like you've just leveled up with like your knowledge after this journey? Like
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I remember like the first episodes where you kind of would pick like your points and you would read them off and you'd be like, this is a fact that I learned about this, and you would kind of question it maybe, and then you guys would go back and forth and then like talk, and now you guys go through it, you're just like teaching so much, and it's like you've learned so much through the process.
Yeah, it is really crazy. I mean, I still don't feel like I even have like scratched the surface, but like before starting this, I didn't even know there was a surface to scratch, if that makes sense. Like, there's just so much to know and learn about this city. And it's cool. I feel like I've got a really cool chunk of like a year's worth of knowledge now, and like the bug for like picking up on like interesting facts and like adding them. Like once you have like that base, then it like slots in like a Tetris or something. Like this connects to this and this connects to that. So it makes it easier to remember the like cool, interesting facts about the city.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I mean, a lot of people at the wedding and even before that have been asking us what's next, and we can kind of get into that a little bit at some point. But one thing that I do think that I want to do is we have a map at home that's a print, and it's the city, the 5 boroughs, and then like every neighborhood is written down in the shape of the neighborhood, you know. And I would like to kind of compare that to the Google map, and I almost like just basically do flashcards. Like, okay, Crown Heights is, on the front of the flashcard, and then like 3 facts on the back of it. It's like, oh, the first integrated school is in Crown Heights, and like, oh, Weeksville is in Crown Heights, and like basically just like anytime I meet anybody, I can like recall information that I gained from this walk and like reproduce it for them. So like not necessarily things that I haven't learned yet, although that would be nice, but basically like the experiences I've had in the past year in a way that's like accessible, that I can share with people.
I mean, it almost sounds like something that like an elementary school could like have for their kids. Like,
right.
Crown Heights, name 3 facts.
Or just like something you could like carry around with you, like bring to a party or something, and like have there for people to like learn
party
from
game
or something too.
Yeah.
Or just like even like a thing, like a reference book. I think it's fun to have that little knowledge.
Go on.
I feel like you've gone on a journey that's basically expanded your knowledge of like an area, and you said like you didn't even know there was a surface to scratch. Like it's crazy that you guys explored things and went into things that I never would have even put together, that just facts on the history, and then bringing in the experts that like talk about it even more, and like going on the journey and physically seeing it is completely different from like just reading about it in like a book or an article. I definitely think you've leveled up, and you've taken scratching at the surface and like deep dove into so many different things. And that's so commendable and crazy, but then also bringing it to other people and sharing it is very awesome. And it's something that no one really had done before quite as in depth, I feel like, as you guys have.
Thanks.
Yeah,
it feels good. And I think like kind of on that thread, there's all these people that we talk to that aren't like famous people that get taught. Like I think a lot of times when people do a podcast or any sort of like interview show, it's focused on like, I want to interview someone that people already know and get like dig into like who they are and get to know them. And we ended up, and I think we even thought like on our list there were a couple people that we wanted to try and reach out to that were like already well known. But I actually ended up really loving like all the different characters, like meeting people that know so much about one thing, or like are the president of this one organization, but like not so well known that anyone outside that neighborhood would know them, but like have this wealth of knowledge. It like made me appreciate so much. There's 8 million people in this city, and like every single one of us has a really cool story to tell and has like a really special connection to this city. And so just like talking with a variety of people has been really nice.
Totally.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like
I
as
agree.
opposed to like only people that might get like clicks or something, or like we want to know about it. It's like now I'm like, oh man, like I want to know about like everyone. I just want to know everyone's stories,
Absolutely.
not just like the famous people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been very pleased with the guests that we've got on. I think there was an ambition at the start of the project to have a guest every week, and ultimately we didn't do that. And ultimately I'm glad we didn't, because it allowed us some time to talk out just what we were thinking too. But I really did love every time we had a guest on, because it broadened our horizons, either, you know, guests such as yourself that we already knew and learned more about them, or guests that we didn't know anything about and they were kind enough to join us. And like
Then you have to do tons of research and learn all about them just to be able to carry a conversation with them.
That was why it was not really plausible for us to have a guest every week, because the overhead to like properly do that didn't really equate to just how much bandwidth we had.
Right.
You know, it was just, you know, I mean, especially some of the topics that we were, you know, really ambitious for us in terms of like culturally significant, like the Native American roads one, or like when we did
In Pursuit of Freedom.
In Pursuit of Freedom, yeah, which was you know, like the abolitionism movement in Brooklyn, things like that are like really important topics that we don't want to get wrong, and like we're trying our hardest to get as much information as accurate as possible, and then whatever delta there might be, we ask for people to just be gentle with us if we do get it wrong, you know. But that's still very much putting ourselves out there and making sure that we're very considerate, or trying to be as considerate as possible, and that when you're walking 131 miles a week, you know, that can be quite a balance to strike, you know?
I mean, you're spending a month in Staten Island and then also trying to interview someone for like every single
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to explore any bit of Staten Island?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's where we started departing from having a guest every week.
I think it might be actually, yeah. Well, because we had the first week we were there, we interviewed the man that was running the space that we were staying
Michael
at.
Johnson, yeah.
Yeah, one of the co-founders of, one of the founders
Yeah.
of Ganas. And then, I don't think for the rest of Staten Island that we had a guest, because it was just like, oh, we want to do this right if we're going to do it.
Although there was also, I think, 1 week in July when we were supposed to interview our friend Brian Rodriguez, and then there was a tropical storm the day that it happened. So it was just physically not possible to do.
Because it was the height of COVID, you couldn't go inside.
Yeah.
So, and then there was a tropical storm, so you couldn't go outside. I mean, we walked, but we couldn't
Yeah,
sit
speaking of
outside.
awful weather and like you guys walking.
Yeah.
I remember one episode where Jesse was talking, it was like during the terrible blizzard.
Yeah.
And Jesse was like, yeah, when that wind picked up at that time, I think that was the third time that I cried that day, and my heart broke. I was just like, oh, this poor thing. And you were like, but then Mike took me and we got like some goggles, and that really changed things for me for the better. I was just like, God bless them. God bless them for getting up and getting out the door and doing this damn thing. And that's commitment.
Yeah.
And you say it a lot, like sometimes I wake up and I don't want to do it, but you still do it. You guys showed up.
Yeah.
I mean, torrential downpours, the worst weather. What was the worst experience you think you had?
I know
I
mine.
mean, it might have been the blizzard, honestly. That's the only day I think that I think I cried like 5 or 6 times.
Were you
that
crossing
day.
bridges or something? Like it was even worse, or what were you doing?
During the blizzard? No, it was
No,
just
we were
constant
going
snow,
to-
you know?
Jesus.
Yeah, we went, that was the week where we were doing the racetracks, I think.
Yeah, it was.
And so we went out to Belmont that day, like the day of the blizzard. And it was really, really the thing that was so hard about that day was just like the amount of like bad weather advisories that pop up on your phone that are like, don't go, stay inside, don't get on the road, don't go on the road, don't go out. And I know that that's talking about like don't drive. But I'm reading that and I'm like, should we not be out? Like, are we doing something dangerous?
It's just like alerts to your core being saying like what you're doing is not right. Like you should not be doing this.
Right. And so I was like trying to figure out if we were like okay to be doing what we were doing. And really it was like the first half until we got to the halfway point. Because I think I was like dealing with this kind of sucks. Like this isn't really enjoyable. I'm like, I wasn't cold at all. I was just getting hit in the face with ice.
Yeah.
And like couldn't really see. And like my feet were actually dry because we had good boots. But like it was hard to move and I was getting tired. And it was like, you know, this isn't fun. And are we gonna get hurt? And are we gonna get like in trouble for being out?
Like a bus could spin out and like hit some ice and take you. Like you never know.
Yeah, like what's gonna happen? Yeah. And then also like we're not even halfway through the day. You know,
yeah.
It was like mile 3, and I'm like, we have so far to go.
I'm remembering like you said like at least my feet were dry, but like you guys had like your first torrential downpour, and like you had like the ponchos or the clothes that just were not doing it for you, and you were so excited about these ponchos that were supposed to keep you dry, and they did not keep you dry.
No, not at all.
It didn't work. Not for, I think they worked really well for like normal rain days, but for like the multiple tropical storms that we walked through in the fall, it didn't work. That one of those days though, sorry, and I'll let you.
No, it's fine.
One of those days was bad also, but I still think the blizzard for me was the hardest day. But because like in the tropical storm, at least everything was just wet, and then you're just wet. And then it like at some point becomes funny. Like we had sandwiches that we had packed, and like we were trying to eat them, and like they were just wet. Like it was just, everything was wet. And I was just like still eating this peanut butter and jelly sandwich, even though it was getting like poured.
It was also summertime, so it was not cold wet. That's good. Some of the days in the fall when it was less rain but still soaked through were really like nervous system like screwed up. Like I get home and like not be able to use my hands or anything. It was weird stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, and then those would be the days too where I'd start to be like, are we gonna get sick? And there's a pandemic, and should we be doing? It's raining, and I need to have soup when we get home, Mike, and we gotta take a hot shower right away and like get 8 hours of sleep to counteract whatever we're doing. Like, what are we doing? And then we were fine.
What are you doing?
You were fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, the blizzard was, I mean, a lot of the walking paths weren't tended at all. So if you can just imagine, it's basically like, you're not in the city, you might as well be in an open field in a national park, and there's 16 inches of snow that you're walking across. Like it's that level of trudging, but for a marathon. Like it was, so in that, I mean, I thought it was so ridiculous, it was sublime, like that type of thing. You know?
I mean, it's a feat. You literally climbed like a mountain, basically.
Yeah. I ended up losing 2 toenails, I think.
Oh, God.
Yeah, for like the next, like, it felt like kind of weird in the boots and whatever. And then like over the course of the next 2 weeks, like the 2 particular toenails like turned black underneath, and then they just fell off. Yeah, and
oh my God,
they're still regrowing. It takes a while.
And then I mean, just the discomfort of that, and then continuing walking. Nonstop.
Yeah.
It's really, all the discomfort things actually has been a really cool experience of just like pushing through.
Yeah.
And then at some point, like not even really noticing. Like even for our wedding the other day, I bought brand new white hokas to wear, and I think I like mentioned to someone like, oh yeah, I'm gonna wear these like brand new white hokas, and they were like, oh, you better break those in, and I was like, eh. I mean,
I've dealt with
will.
worse.
Yeah, and I was like, you know, I probably
nothing.
will.
A blister?
Whatever.
A blister's no big deal. And then I thought I would wear them a little bit, and I didn't end up wearing them. I just immediately walked 33 miles and got married, and like it was fine. It was totally fine. And it's like that kind of thing you just don't really even notice anymore.
I'm remembering there was like whatever that really high bridge that I'd never even heard of until your episode, where that's like it was like a pier or a dock that people used to walk on, and then there's a very high, like intense stairs that were going down.
High Bridge.
Yeah. I've actually never been, but I want to go.
Yeah,
it's great. It was beautiful to learn about. But I remember in the episode you were talking about how you had to kind of stop because your legs were cramping up so badly, and you couldn't even get down to the rest of the stairs. It was just like, and pushing through that. I was just like, God, they must be going through so much. Like, keep going. Way to go.
Yeah. Well,
Power
that
to
one
you.
in particular was like, I think I was noticing the leg feelings too, because I'm like very afraid of heights, and I was getting like vertigo too, and
Yeah.
so it was like I was like, ah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool to get to this. I guess that is the thing that, like, even though I don't quite feel like we're done fully, I do feel like, wow, we've really gone through a lot this year, and like feel like I can push through, and it makes me feel very strong.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll answer my worst day just in case there are people that have been waiting.
Oh.
But I might be recency bias, but it only happened like a few weeks ago. A friend of mine, Adam, I don't know if, hi Adam, if you happen to be listening to this, offered tickets to the Knicks game, the Knicks playoff game a few weeks back. So like, you know, everything's reopening, it's like 75% capacity or whatnot, and like, I don't know, I haven't been to a Knicks game in a long time, in a playoff game no less. So I was like, sure, yeah, I'll go along with you. And he was generous enough to like, I was like, I don't know if I want to pay that much, but I'll pay, you know, like 75% of it, and then I'll get the drinks at the game or whatever. So great. So the drinks at Madison Square Garden are like, you know, they're like $16, but then they give you the 24-ounce can, you know. So I get the first round of drinks, and then I'm gonna go get some food I haven't eaten, and I was like, do you want another drink? And he was like, yeah, and it's like, so I'll have another drink, okay. And then the game's over, they win, it was the one game they won, and I figure I'm gonna go home, but he's like, hey, you wanna go hang out, like at a bar? And of course, I haven't seen him in so long, you know, let's go hang out. So then we had like 1 drink, 2 drinks, 3 drinks, and then by the end of it, it's like, oh wow, I'm drunk, like this is a thing.
And I know, like, I feel like during COVID, people either like leaned into drinking or leaned out of drinking, and we were people that leaned out. So like, that was probably like, those 5 were probably like 6 through 10 of all the drinks you've had all year or something. Like,
more or less, yeah. And I mean, those 24 ounces, those are 2 drinks each. You know,
it's
so I had
just
like
a lot, yeah.
7 drinks, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but when you haven't drank at all, you know, the next day I woke up and I was like, I have made a terrible mistake.
I want to die.
and then we walked a marathon.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then like
gosh.
it was like, I don't know if I can do this. And then ultimately it was like the calculus of like taking that day off and like moving it to the end of the week was just like not palatable. So I just got to get up and do it. And
I think
yeah.
also, like, I went out and got you stuff, like whatever. I got you like Advil and Gatorade and a banana or something. But I was
Yeah.
like, I was perky. Like I hadn't done that.
You
So
didn't
I was
have
like,
all those
"Alright, I'm
drinks."
ready."
Yeah. But I mean, so yeah, the first 2 hours I was like, please just don't talk to me. You didn't do anything wrong. I did everything wrong, but like
Yeah.
I just cannot communicate. And then it gradually got better. But I mean, I think it also speaks to just the idea of like, there was really a very small margin of us being able to screw up.
Yeah.
You know, it had to be very constructed. You couldn't just have like, oh, just one night I'll just do something else. That's fine. And then we'll
Yeah.
pick it up tomorrow. It's like, no, pretty much every day, this was the primary thing to make sure that we maintained this, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing we did walk that day too, because then we saw Bill de Blasio in Greenwood.
Yeah, I ended up
using the bathroom.
using
at
the same
time
bathroom as him in
Oh, wow.
Greenwood Cemetery. Which is, did we tell that story?
I don't know if we did or not. If we didn't, there's more.
I'll
to be said, but,
give you
whatever.
the Cliff Notes version. He was still on his
Sounds
conference call when he was using the urinal.
Wow.
So that's Bill for you. But
And you said urinal, not like stalls. so-
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's a little better if we're gonna go for it. But yeah, I mean that was the most, again, recency bias perhaps. That was the most challenging day, and then maybe the days in the first couple of weeks when it was the enormity of the task was like really like out there. It's like, you know, 52 hot dogs on a table, and it's like you got to eat all of these, you know.
Yeah.
And just being like, I said that I was going to do this thing. We said we were going to do this thing, and we both are very sincere about keeping our word when it comes to things. So like, all right, well, there's nothing to do but just move forward, you know. But there's a lot of anxiety when you're, you know, like, because also time changed so dramatically over the course of this project. Like, you know, week 2 or 3, Wednesday of the week felt like an eternity until the end of the week.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, the days just like Monday. It's like, wow, it's already Friday. Wow. Okay. All right. Next week. Here we go. You know. So it just like the time dilation and like the getting your head into the project. I mean, we had faith that it would happen, but you never know until like you actually like start experiencing it, how it's going to go. So.
you've conditioned yourselves.
Yeah.
So now, how do you feel about sleeping in a little more and not having to go to bed by like 7 or 8 or whatever you were doing and waking up at?
Yeah, well, at the beginning, we were being really good about that, and we were like, we're gonna we started in the summer, so it was hot. So we were like, we are gonna get up at 5, we're gonna start walking really early, get a bunch in before it gets like the middle of the day. That was really important. So we were really good about going to bed at like 8, 9, 10 and getting up at 5. And then at some point, I don't remember what the point was, somewhere in the fall, I think, we just like didn't do that anymore. And we would just like stay up and then get up at like 10 and just like start walking then. And sometimes not even start till like noon. And it was just like, then you would just be out until 10 p.m. and then that would push it further. So like, I feel like every Monday we would try to get up earlier than we had the previous Friday.
Because it moves back by the end of the week.
Yeah. And we just get things done in the evening. It's really, I think we may have talked about this at some point on the podcast. If we have, then you're hearing it again. But the idea, the idea that somehow like getting up later is a sign of somebody that's not like seizing the day, which is insane because we're walking a marathon. Like there's still like that's still happening. But also I think just our natural tendency is to be up later. So it just started going that way as our body didn't need that like immediate rest anymore, you know? And as our routines gradually changed to the point where particularly anytime we traveled, abroad, we went to like an outer borough, like when we went to Staten Island or when we went to the Bronx. The routines would shift because we were no longer at home. And then we would come back from those areas and it would be kind of an interesting thing to see like what was retained and then what ended up falling away. So like the big things that come to mind are in Staten Island in September, we had like a big food regiment prior to that. And then when we were in Staten Island, the food was part of staying there. Like, so when we came back, it gradually, food prep became less and less a thing because I don't really know why, it just did. It wasn't a habit anymore after a month. And then picking up a habit while you're still recording a podcast every week and walking 131 miles, it's difficult without a team of people, basically.
Yeah.
And then,
so I don't even really know how to like cook anymore. I'm going to like relearn that. Well, but I mean, but truly, like, I think the habit was we would come home and like before I would like sit down, I would like go to the kitchen and like get stuff going, like wash the vegetables or put the rice on or whatever it was. And then I would sit down and like drink a glass of water or do whatever. But then after being in a place where like for a month I didn't have to do that, then like when we came back in October, I was just...
It just became less frequent.
I was sitting down and then I was like, oh wait, we don't have dinner. I don't know. Let's just order something or whatever. Like now I'm sitting and I like don't want to go find the onions or whatever.
Well, you guys had a food journey because every single time you were in a different area, like there was the Russian deli and you were going to have that, or like it was going to be all Italian, or like going through Queens, like the Asian food and
And also Jesse's work changed fundamentally as it progressed. Like the first few months was still like pandemic supply, and then at a certain point it switched to like, we're pretty much at full production again. And so that changed like the times that Jesse was available to like come back, because of course she was walking 3 marathons and I was walking 5. So one of those days there's an opportunity to make something. But
then at some point it was like, nope, none of those days. Like I need all 4 of those days, like
catch up on work and life. And
yeah, exactly. And like work 12-hour days and then walk 12-hour days.
Yeah.
And I think someone asked, like I think since October, I don't think I've taken a day off.
Bless you.
Until this week. But it's interesting because like what is taking a day off, Like the days when we were walking were great, and like we got to spend a lot of time together, and like I got to at least rest my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I go to work and I'm like doing something completely different, and I also really love what I do for work, and so Yeah, I don't know. That'll be a weird, interesting thing to like reintroduce, is like days off where we're just, I don't even know what that looks like. What do you do on a day off?
Yeah, I mean, you go to the park and you walk around and you like.
You just don't
enjoy
record
it.
this. You just talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting for you guys to segue, but you guys probably have some things coming up on the horizon though, and a lot of people have been asking about it. Are you ready to talk about it?
I mean, that'll be all in terms of Vermont. We're going to Vermont starting July 5th.
This is the honeymoon, right?
This is the honeymoon.
Yeah.
3 weeks, that we're going up there. And that'll be the space to decide what's next. The idea is have a total decompression and then start getting antsy, like in a positive way, where it's like, I don't know what to do with myself. And then that's when like you can have enthusiasm come back in. I feel like if we were to decide right now, it would be based on furthering this thing exclusively. And I don't know necessarily if that would align with enthusiasm. There's a good chance that it could, but it may more be about like, well, how can we make this something more than what it is? And I don't think that's always the best place to be making things from.
Yeah.
Much rather just kind of appreciate this thing that we did, because we've already done so much. In addition to walking 7,000 miles around New York City, like this will be the 56th podcast episode, and we also took all of these photos, we did all of this video, and we have grown as people outside of whatever external presentation we're giving to people. We need to reflect on that too. So like, if we didn't do a single other thing about the project, it would be completely successful, So give ourselves some time to think about it and then create from a space of enthusiasm,
Exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when we planned this out, I mean, I still have it at my studio. We have this like 30-foot roll, like 6-foot tall, 30-foot roll of paper that we had taped on the wall, and we wrote out like all these questions about what we were doing and categorized everything. And specifically as we were going, we like left some like end goals, like we stopped them at a certain point, like this is what we can complete in a year, and like not thinking about what's next, or like how do you wrap it up, or how do you present it in a way that's like, palatable to other people, or like something that makes money, or not like taking ourselves out of that framework a little bit, so that now we have the space, if something in that framework feels exciting, we can still do it, but like to not just like, if we want to like make a book or something, for example, it'll have to be like if we want to make a book, not just because like people are saying, oh, you should make a book, you could probably sell it or whatever, because that's like not, we already do so many things because we can like sell it or make money or further ourselves or whatever. And this year has been so special that like there was an element of like, we're putting this on YouTube, we want people to see it, and if we get to this many subscribers, we can potentially put ads on it, but like I really loved that it's also like we're gonna keep doing it no matter what, and we're not like buying ads, and we're not like pushing it too hard in any sort of way that like feels not like us, because it makes it just like truly what it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, very excited to think about it. I mean, this is not to say that we won't do anything. I'm pretty confident we will be doing things around this project.
Just enjoy what you've completed and relish in that, and there's no need to rush into something. You guys have had enough time to walk and process and think and plan, but for now, like, this is your ending of this particular project, and appreciate it for what it is.
And
be proud of yourselves. Be very proud of yourselves.
Thanks.
Thank you. And it's so interesting that with the pandemic being the backdrop for all of this, and in this part of the country or this country, right? I think a lot of people can be feeling those same things,
Yeah.
Almost every person has a story about this past 15 months that could be a movie, you know? Like if you were to just write it down, you know? And so I think everybody can take that opportunity to kind of reflect on what just happened.
Well, we all went through some shit, but you guys went the opposite route of everyone just staying in and like shutting down and drinking too much. You guys kind of went the opposite route, and like we're out there in it, and
Yeah.
it's completely the opposite. So don't put yourself in the same box of everybody else.
I mean,
I don't know. I mean, sure. I mean, but also we all have our own like independent experiences, and I do think, yeah. I mean, there was an element. We really weren't. No, like we weren't staying in. We were out, but we were still isolated. In this, it was weird because it's like we were out in the world, but we weren't out in the same way that like we would have been in February of 2020. We weren't going to bars, we weren't going to restaurants, we weren't going on the subway, like we weren't seeing anyone, like we were just seeing each other. We just happened to be like leaving our apartment.
Plus, it was a very scary time, and to be walking around a lot of people and getting into areas with masks and like being on a sidewalk next to them was terrifying.
It was.
Yeah.
And
I'm really glad we did that too, though. I think like it's in my nature to kind of like shrink up and like hide from things that are scary, and I think doing this like and not drinking also like being like fully 100% sober and in it,
present,
and going like head first into the like terrifying world that we didn't know anything about. Like something about doing that, especially at the very beginning, like even though it was really scary and I was constantly thinking like, should we be doing this? Is this right? Are we gonna, what's gonna happen? It feels really good. Like it felt like I practiced that all year. And like, I don't know what scary things are gonna come up next, but I'm like super ready to like be the person that continues to like walk towards it.
Yeah.
Don't
run away from it. Don't shy away from it, because you can conquer it.
Yeah.
You've done it.
Yeah, and now that we can see our friends again,
it's lovely.
I feel like I can like grab elbows with people and be like, come on, it's okay, come on, let's do it.
Yeah.